Hello, everybody. I'm still in Miami. It's gotten a little less hot, which is good, but it's still hot, but who cares about the weather? I view the debate last night, of course. I was not in the venue last night. I instead went to a gathering of the Yang Gang in Miami Beach to watch the debate, and that was interesting company to be in. A number of people who are members of the Yang Gang apparently recognized me and came to say hello, so that was nice. Hello to you if you're watching this. Yang got the least amount of speaking time of any candidate over both nights by a lot. And that was obviously a conscious choice by the NBC producers, who have been clear that their primary objective in orchestrating these debates was not to actually facilitate debate. It was to maximize viewership. And obviously, you're going to maximize viewership if you give all the time to people who have greater name recognition, like Joe Biden. Whereas people like Yang, who qualified for the debates under all the criteria, they're basically shunned. Yang even says that his mic was turned off, so he was physically prevented from interjecting. Now, whether that's true, I don't know. I don't know why he would lie about that. But it seems plausible because there was a span of like 45 minutes, it seemed like, where Yang said nothing at all and was asked zero questions. And in the Yang Gang gathering, people were starting to get frustrated. They were hissing and booing and cursing NBC because they wanted to hear, understandably, from Yang. And he ended up only getting a couple minutes. What was weird is that in the limited time he did get, he decided to proclaim that Russia is America's chief geopolitical foe. Now, is anybody who's really concerned about Russia supporting Yang? I mean, is anybody whose top issue is that America really needs to get serious about counteracting, quote, Russian interference and combating all the really scary Facebook memes and Twitter trolls? Are any of those people really in the Yang Gang? I find that a little hard to believe, which is why that comment came across as a bit out of character. I know he has commented on that before, but it's obviously not a major emphasis of his, and it's not really why, in the slightest, people are supporting him. So there were a number of attendees of the gathering last night who I spoke to who were a little befuddled and even a bit miffed that he used his precious time to rant about Russia, which just came across as forced and weird. But nonetheless, if it's true that NBC turned off his mic, that's clear bias in the most basic sense. So it should be addressed. But it just underscores how ridiculous it is that these commercial TV networks have exclusive control over how presidential debates are structured and what the editorial content of those debates would be. There's no necessary reason for this. It's the product of a conscious choice by the party elders or the party apparatchiks and the TV networks and they all share mutual friends and relationships. So it's very incestuous, and it's in some sense in the interest of both parties to give one another that exclusive right. But, I mean, what's to stop 10 candidates or something from setting up an event themselves, live streaming it, having other journalists who are not like TV celebrities do the questioning, or even have random people do the questioning? Who cares? I mean, they're probably better than Chuck Todd and Rachel Maddow. Actually, it almost certainly would be better. Well, I mean, the one reason that they're prevented from doing that is because they could face sanction from the DNC. But, I mean, if Bernie Sanders and Mayor Pete and Beto and Tulsi and Yang and a handful of others decided to get together and have a debate of some kind, the DNC is not going to sanction them, believe me. They are going to be pressured into not doing that. So really, it's a matter of these candidates having too much fealty to the party establishment such that they don't want to challenge it. They don't want to, rock the boat too much. But it's within their purview to organize something that is debate-like, that is not going to be as tedious and as poorly formatted as what we've been subject to for the past 2 nights. Now, one of the big events that everybody's been screaming about is the exchange that Kamala Harris had with Joe Biden. Kamala Harris's main constituency at this point appears to be the media, who, when she first announced, declared her the front runner. I mean, Nate Silver has been extraordinarily bullish on Kamala Harris from the beginning, and certainly she has some strengths, but come on, front runner? She announced in, I think it was February of this year, and everybody was anointing her the victor already, not in a literal sense, but they were very much overhyping her stature. And she really hasn't gained much traction lately, except, she's got some endorsements. Just being a senator from California is a big platform. But the polls weren't really reflecting whatever gain she might have made. So what she obviously did was a politically calculated attack on Biden, because Kamala Harris needs to peel off a certain segment of black voters who aren't especially attracted to her at this point, especially in the South. And Biden has the highest support by far among black voters, and that's why his lead in South Carolina is so huge at this point. So people were claiming that there was this righteous fury by Kamala Harris and she was doing it all out of principle. No, it was out of pure political calculation, which, is understandable if you're running in a contested primary campaign, but don't ascribe excess virtue to what she did. To me, the attacks on Biden seem to have an air of bad faith about them. Not that Biden should not be subject to scrutiny. He should. Bernie actually mentioned Biden's Iraq war vote in 2002 and, used it to contrast his record, justifiably, with Biden's. I thought Bernie was a little tepid on that. And Biden, when he was asked about the vote specifically by Maddow, whose presence there was a disgrace in the first place, Biden deflected and used his relationship with Obama to kind of shield himself from any scrutiny of that 2002 vote. First of all, it's ridiculous that we're even talking about the 2002 vote 17 years later, but the Democrats keep insisting on fielding candidates who voted for that 2002 resolution, such as Hillary Clinton, whose vote harmed her in the 2008 presidential cycle and the 2016 presidential cycle, and arguably was one of the factors which led her to her defeat to Trump. But we're still litigating it because now Biden is in the mix. So it is what it is, I guess. But, as far as Kamala, the reason why her attacks and the attacks that the media have tried to foist upon Biden over the past couple weeks come across as bad faith is because, newsflash, Joe Biden was elected twice on the same ticket as Barack Obama, the first black president. And somehow, some way, none of these decades-old comments or positions he had from the 70s ever really came up. If they did come up, it was only in kind of niche left-wing media. And you can find some of that, but it was never a mainstream narrative. It was never a question that was posed to him routinely by journalists. The anecdote that he told about these old-time segregationist senators is something he's been saying for years, and it never raised anybody's ire until now. So that's why it does seem a little artificial, or it doesn't seem totally honest. I believe that Biden ought to be challenged on various aspects of his record, but the idea that they're going to latch onto these votes and anecdotes that relate to the 1970s just doesn't deal with his record in the sense of why he's in the status he is in now, why he's at the top of the polls, why he's in serious contention for the nomination, is because he was elected twice on the same ticket as Barack Obama. And he was vice president for 8 years. Okay, so why is that never discussed? It seems so blatantly obvious, and yet it gets elided, which is just a weird dynamic. So be wary of the confabulated media narratives that come out of a debate like this, where they like instantaneously declared Kamala the winner. Is she a skilled debater? I guess. I mean, I don't think it was that impressive, really, but she's obviously a competent individual. She's a lawyer. She's intelligent. She was the Attorney General of California. So, I mean, yeah, she's going to be able to have her wits about her in the context of a debate setting. And there are certainly some flaws that she can expose relative to Biden. But, you know, don't get ahead of yourselves. Not that many people are tuning in, although I kind of have of two minds about that, because there is a sense in which the electorate right now is hyper politicized. So you do have an inordinate amount of people actually paying close attention to the race right now, even though it's fairly early. I mean, it's only June of 2019, right? But there was a poll from May which showed that more people are paying attention now to the 2020 race than were paying attention to the 2016 race in November of 2016, so at the very peak of the general election season. Maybe that poll's an outlier, maybe the methodology was suspect, but if that's true, that's pretty crazy. So maybe we should expect some actual movement as a result of these debates. I don't know. The audience for these debates tend to be, or at least the most important audience tends to be journalists and media personalities who watch them and use them as a basis to concoct various narratives that further whatever their agenda is. And the agenda, whether you like it or not, on the part of many activists in the Democratic Party and sympathetic media figures, is to take down Biden. They find it offensive on a visceral level that Biden, an old white male, could be the standard bearer for the Democratic Party in the era, quote, of Trump. They feel as though people of color, etc., women, are entitled to have that position now. And so the coverage of Biden has just been overwhelmingly negative. And you just have to be conscious of that. It doesn't mean you're defending Biden or you're supporting Biden. You're just being mindful of the way in which the media ecosystem is kind of machinating. So that's kind of what I've tried to encourage. Not that I want to defend Biden or whatever. I want people to have awareness of what's being done here, because it really is the current state of the race is over-dependent, over-reliant on whatever the media's priorities are. And people should be aware of that and not allow themselves to get force-fed with certain narratives that could distort their perception of the race. Other stuff that went on, I don't know. Marianne Williamson's very present on the stage is just super bizarre. Oprah's spiritual guru, saying that we need to reach into the soul of the American psyche and defeat Trump or whatever she was talking about. I don't know. Eric Swalwell's a total dope. His presence there was a joke. Mayor Pete, I know people swoon over just because he's seems to have a high IQ and he's smart and he's competent. I didn't find him that compelling, but again, I'm not the audience for this. What else? I don't know. You watched it, so you can draw your own conclusions. Those are the points that I wanted to touch on. Leaving Miami tonight, and I'll have a piece actually that encapsulates some of what I've discussed here. It's going to be going up shortly. I will link it in the description box at The Spectator. If you've enjoyed, or even if you've hated any of my coverage over the past couple days, I've been doing quite a bit. Consider a contribution on Patreon or PayPal. Obviously, that information is linked in the description box. I'll be putting up a podcast probably later today that's sort of a debate recap, but a little longer form. And that'll do it. So, talk to you later.